This is Meri at the Meri Atelier, and I am ready to do another tatting video. I have been teaching myself how to tat. I've been following this book by Barbara Foster, Learn Tatting Step by Step. In the description box below, you will see a link to things I'm using, except for the thread. I got the thread, it's just crochet thread that I got at Walmart. I would guess it's probably about a size 10, but it's not expensive thread. And I have been joining and making rings and joining them together. And I'm so proud of this. This is the longest one I've done to date. I've joined 6 rings. I am so proud of it. So let's get started. I have a little journal here that I'm keeping my needle tatting experiences in. You can see I've done a lot with 2 here, 2 tats, and I think I've done 3 with 2 tats, 3 with 2. I'm going to pick out the better ones, maybe 2 of these, this one and this one. And then I've done 2 over here with 3 rings. I said 2 tats, I mean 3 rings, 2 rings, 2 rings, and 3 rings and 3 rings. And I've been joining them together, and that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to put these in my book along with my Pride and Joy of 6. These are going to go in my journal. This is my journal that I'm using. And I'm just going to set them right here for now. We'll come back to those. I just want to get them out of the way. Whoops, maybe this one too. Put that one in there. I do have a little tin that I got at Goodwill, little sewing tin, and I am putting extras that I want to use in my art in here. I don't have it filled up yet, but I've got that many in there. So we'll put that out of the way. Here's the book that I'm using, Step by Step Tatting by Barbara Foster. I do go out there and look at modules on the internet. This is not a teaching tutorial. This is, I'm tatting, and come and tat along with me. At least you can see how I'm learning. So I'm not going to read this. I find it very interesting. There's a lot of information in here, needle sizes and thread sizes, how to get started. And I want to talk about that because I've gotten a little bit better about putting that beginning stitch on my needle. And then there's some projects back here. Look, she's made some collars. So there is a link to her YouTube channel, and I think this book is on Amazon. And it's about the same price. I bought it retail. I think it cost me around $13. You can get it cheaper, $12.95. You can get it, I bought this retail, but you can get it on Amazon, especially if you get a used one for a little cheaper than that. But I find it really helpful. So let's get busy here. This is thread that I acquired from Walmart, and I might zoom in, but before I do that, we're only going to do 2 rings at first, and then we'll do 3, but we're going to concentrate on that beginning stitch and joining the second ring to the first ring. So Barbara Foster in this book, Learn Needle Tatting, recommends that you take about 1 yard and 6 inches for each ring. And I found that to be true. That's about what it takes. So I just do the nose to tip of my finger method here. stretch out my hand. I've got pretty long hands, so it might be longer than a yard. Let me just pull some out here. Put this in my lap for now. And about like this is about 1 yard and 6 inches. And I'm just going to double that and maybe leave me a little extra. So I always have a little extra. I'm more comfortable with a little extra. Now I need to thread the needle, and I find this needle has a pretty small eye. Let's go to the other end. A pretty small eye for this thread. This thread's a little thicker, but if I work at it, I can get it in there. Let's see if I can get it in here. I'm going to have to get it up to my nose here to thread it. It's almost there. And you see that thread begins to kind of unravel, but if I gently pull it, it comes through. Now, the length you leave here is variable. And I think as I get better at tatting and more confident in what I'm doing, I'll probably have a shorter length. But what I have about 5 inches here. That's what I'm going to use. So then I have approximately 2.5 yards of thread on my needle. And I find if I'm working at my desk like I am now, and when I'm working with longer threads, get anything that thread can catch onto out of the way. I found that with my book binding. I haven't bound a journal in a long time. Now at this point, I'm going to zoom in a little so that you can see closer up what I'm doing. So let me zoom in. Hold on. Is that enough? Okay. So I like to get my thread, the bulk of my thread, over to the left-hand side. And I'm using the right-hand side to tat with. And not only do you want a tail on the eye, off of the eye of the needle, you'll want a tail here where you start your tatting. So a tail on each end of the thread. And I kind of hold that tail in my hand to start out with, like this, and hold the thread. Now this is what I've learned. I was putting a little beginner stitch on here where I'd wrap it and push it through this way, and before I got it off my finger, I would go that way, and that would give me a starter stitch, but it's kind of a twisty thing. But I have learned better of how to do this, because if you grasp the thread and just hold that tail right along your needle, hold your thread up by your needle, you wrap the thread around your index finger and come under. I hope I can do it now. Come under and kind of hold that thread with your finger and pull it on a loop on your needle. And I have so much trouble with that loop falling off. I still have trouble with that loop, that very first stitch falling off. But if I hold on to it, then you want to do the last leg of your first tat, and you just come around the other way. You do the first leg over, you do the last leg under. Well, it's over the opposite direction. I call it under. I call it front and back. Okay, now I have the first double stitch on my needle, and it looks just like this. It's got a little cap to it. I've heard somebody out there on the internet called that little horizontal stitch right at the top a cap. So I've been calling it a cap. So we are ready to do 5 double stitches. Do you remember how to do the double stitch? It's very easy. Let's grab this tail, which got shorter. That's okay. I don't really need a long tail on this side. So hold that tail out of the way as much as you can. Let me get a hold of it here. And I'm just going to hold it up by my needle while I'm working. The little cap is facing me and the two little legs are facing away from me. It's not important, but that's just how it is for me. And you take your thread to do a double stitch. You come over your index finger in my case, it's my left hand. And then you come under that loop like this. It forms the loop of the first leg of the second stitch, and you put it on your needle. And then you come the other way. I actually just kind of come under. Your thread is wrapped counterclockwise, and you go to the back of your finger and come under. You always go under your thread on your finger, no matter which side of the stitch you're doing. So this is the second leg, and now you have a double stitch. The double stitch is the only stitch other than the picot that you're going to need for tatting. So let's do 3, and I count. Sometimes I sit there and count. Sometimes when I'm just tatting, I don't sit and go 1, 2, 3. But for the benefit of me showing you, I can go 3. See how I'm going under it? This is 3, 1, which is the first leg. Come back here, and 3, 2. 4, 1. Go to the back leg. 4, 2. 5, 1. And 5, 2. That's all there is to it. That's so easy. If you knit or crochet, you'll go, this is a breeze. All right, we're ready to make the first picot. Do you remember the picot is the little loop? The cute, this is what makes it delicate and pretty and lacy, if you ask me. And to make the picot, I use my index finger as a stopper, and I allow about a 1/2 inch space, depending on the size of picots, if you want them real tiny or if you want them medium, but I use about a 1/2 inch space. Do not let your first stitch fall under your top of your index finger there on your right hand. So you make the first leg, 1, see how that stops it, and then you make the second leg, 2, and that's your picot stitch right there. You close it up and it makes that little tiny loop. All right, we're going to do 5 more double stitches, and I'm just going to kind of go fast here. 1, 1, 1, and 1, 2. Get this tail out of my way. 2, 2, 3. Second one, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. And we're ready to make the second picot. Now, I have been watching tatting tutorials and tatting videos out there, and I have seen where some people only put 3 double stitches in there, and I think that would make a nice smaller ring. My rings are fairly large, and they're not quite as delicate, but I'm learning. And I need them a little larger so that I can handle it better and I can see what I'm doing better. When I get advanced, and I will get advanced someday, I'll go to the really fine threads and the fine needles, and we'll have real pretty delicate tatting. So we're ready to do the second picot. Put your index finger on the needle and allow about a 1/2 inch space. And we're going to do the first stitch here. 1, 2, that's the picot stitch. Bring it closed. Now we're going to do the first double stitch on the third group of 5. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, and see how comfortable you get with doing this. 2. So we've got 2 picots and 3 sets of 5 double stitches on my needle. So now we're ready for the third and last picot. We're only doing 3 picots on this needle. So use your index finger as a stopper, about a 1/2 inch. And you're going to make the little spacer there. And that's the picot, one double stitch, and then you close it up and you get your third picot. Now you need the last set of 5 double stitches. So you go 1, 2, 2, 2. This is the front. 3. This is the second leg. 2. That's 3. 4, 2, 5, and 2. Now we're going to pull this thread, we're going to make a ring. And to do that, if I had a longer tail, my tail here got a little short, but I kind of hold it with my thread in this hand. And one thing that I've seen in one of the tutorials out there, I don't remember which one, but she kind of, as she pushes it down, she kind of holds those stitches and closes her fingers up over around them. So you can't really see that, what's happening there, but that really works for me. And you want to keep this thread here as you're pulling your needle thread through. And I don't need that much of a length on my tail, because if I had a long tail down here, I would be pulling 2 threads through this chamber of double stitches. And the shorter you make it, the less length of 2 threads you have to pull through. And I find that's a lot easier. So I have maybe about 2.5, maybe 3 inches on there, which is very reasonable. And you just slide those double stitches off down to the bottom of your needle, and you pull your needle through. You pull your needle through. Now I find it's really important with this thread, it seems to want to twist and tangle a lot. So it's really important to me to keep this thread straight, and the longer you get, the more it will tangle. And this, I think, is just see, it likes to twist in on itself. Now, one thing I've done is take this needle and just kind of place it there as a stopper. And that seems to work for a little bit, you know, just kind of, and it just depends. You'll find ways to keep it from, if you have a thread that's prone to tangling. I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the twist of the thread when they make it. This is crochet thread. And let's get that needle out of there now, because it's gonna, let me pull it out here. It's going to sew this, whoops. It's going to sew it right in there if I don't get it out. Come on. Well, I got it twisted. I'm going to unthread my needle and just pull that out. And you'll be doing things like that. Don't get frustrated, especially when you're only going to make 2 rings. And see how as I pull it down, it's starting to form its own little ring. So I'm just going to keep pulling on this. Gently pull it through. Don't let it irritate you. That tail will get in the way. But just pull it through, just gentle. It'll slide through. It'll make its little ring. The first one, if you ask me, is a little bit easier than the rest of them. But then as it twists, you kind of want to work it into a, you know, make it look nice. Make all the little caps. I call those little horizontal bar, they're caps, because I heard somebody else calling caps. And you have this is your needle thread that's falling in the back, and this is your tail thread. And you just keep pulling at it, just gentle, and it will form a pretty little ring. Gentle. And I find if I pull it too tight, it'll want to twist these threads on the ring. So, you know, you make a pretty ring, but don't pull it so tight that your ring is pulling too tight on itself. Let me get a hold of this needle thread here. Now on the first ring, I don't worry about making a little stitch to hold it because I'm going to knot it. And I like to, this is my needle thread here. I like to take the tail thread to loop over it like this when I make my knot, and not the needle thread because it's shorter. And you just make a little knot there to keep your ring from pulling out. And that's a pretty little ring. I'm not unhappy with that. Let's hold it up close so you can see it. It's a happy little ring. And it's pretty. Now we're going to make another ring, but we're not going to cut it off of our thread. In my beginning videos, I was just snipping the thread here and had one tatted ring. And I've already started using them on my art. On my January Stitch With Me 2023, I used it. Now I've got to rethread this needle because I unthreaded it. So give me a minute. I'll do that offline. Oh, it went right in. So now we're going to do the second ring. And as I said, I like to have my thread over to the left-hand side because I'm tatting with my right hand and I'm holding it in my left hand. So now what we want to do is kind of let your ring drop down, and then I like to kind of hold it on this index finger and put my needle, I want about a 1/2 inch space. But it's been my experience so far that even though I allow a 1/2 inch, by the time I loop it around there and do my first stitch, I get longer than a 1/2 inch. So I go a little under a 1/2 inch where I place my needle because I know that a little of this thread will fall down in there. So, and then you just kind of hold it, and you don't want it up close to the tip of your needle because then you can't get your loop on there. Hold it, oh, I'd say that's about 1.5 inches down. Wrap your thread around your index finger, and let me get this placed. I have to practice this. I'm not good at it right offhand. I have to practice this several times, and sometimes I drop it. Okay, then you make your first loop and thread it on your needle. Thread it on your needle and hold on to it. Don't let it fall off. I kind of push it down between my needle and my finger there. So it will fall off for you. Don't get discouraged. Just go back and put it back on. Come around, do your second leg of your first double stitch, and there it is. Now, as I let go of this, see how much longer that is? That's really longer than I want. That's probably about 3/4 of an inch. And sometimes I can work it down a little, but sometimes I'll just take my needle out like I did there and do it again. So I practice this quite a bit. And as I get better at tatting, I'll get a better hang of what I'm doing. So I'm probably about 3/8 of an inch down there. I don't want a 1/2 inch because a 1/2 inch I'll end up with more than what I expect. So I'm holding on to that thread between my needle and my index finger. Wrap it around, go under, put it on your needle, pull the loop tight, hold on to that first stitch, come and do your second leg, and then let it fall. Now that's a little bit better. That's not quite as long. That's probably about a 1/2 inch. And that is the thread that will go on to the next loop. It'll be kind of like the bottom join. So now you can count this as the first stitch, and that's what I'm going to do. So I have 1, now I want to do 5. So 2, let me push that paper up. 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. Now, instead of making the picot here on our first picot, we're going to join it to this ring. So what I do is I push my thread down close to the point of the needle. You don't want to push them off. Leave you enough working room there. And then I take the point of my needle and put it through the third picot of your first ring, like that. And then I take my needle thread and I wrap it around my needle. And what the object of this is you want to pull that needle thread through that little picot. And you have to kind of work at it. There it went through. It's like a button. You're putting a button through, only it's not a button. Or a bead. You're threading a bead or a button through that ring. But you're just pulling that little thread through the ring. And that does not count as a stitch. We're ready to do our first stitch of the second group of 5. This is what we have now. Let me hold it up so you can see it. Isn't that pretty? This is going to be a nice, we're only going to put 2 rings on here. Then I'm going to make one with 3. So, because the longer thread you get, I want you to see how we are there. You can work off the ball, but when you're doing something like this, I mean, you're on the skein of thread itself. I will get to that in a future video. I haven't really done that yet. I'm doing what she describes, the exercises in that book. I think it's real important to learn how to make rings and how to join them before you try doing other things. And this is needle tatting. This is not shuttle tatting. We're not working off of a tatting shuttle. We're working off of a tatting needle. So now we're ready to do our second group of 5 double stitches. Wrap it around your index finger, come under 1, go to the back, 2, and 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. Now here we need to make a picot, because this, where we did the join here, this is called a join, where you threaded that thread through the third picot. This was the first picot, the second one. And if you don't like this stitch, you can always push it off the end of your needle. Just like what I'm doing. You don't want to take off more than 1. Let's do that one again. So I got my spacer here. My finger is the spacer. I don't want that first stitch to fall below the top of my index finger there. So wrap it around. That's the first leg. Come behind, and that's the second leg. And then you can close it up. It makes a little loop. Now we want to do 5 more. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, and this will get very meditative, very repetitive, that's 4, 2, 5, 2. If you do this a lot, I mean, it'll become second nature. You almost have muscle memory. So we've got 1, 2 picots. We're ready for the third picot on our ring, and it will be the last picot on this set of 2 rings. Same thing. Use your finger as a spacer. Don't let that stitch fall under until we're ready to close up the loop. So keep it about a 1/2 inch, and then come back, do the last leg, and then close it. And these loops are a little larger, but I want you to be able to see them. And you can take your loops and kind of pull them out a little to see what you have. All right, now we're going to do the last set of 5 double stitches. So 1, 2, 2, 2. It sounds like I'm doing sit-ups. I'm not doing sit-ups. 3, 2, 4, 2, and 5, 2. All right. And see, I've got this much thread. I might be able to do another ring, but I'm only going to do 2 for this example. And then I go back and I check my thread over here, and I don't want quite that long of a tail. I just pull it a little shorter, and I make sure my thread is not tangled up over here. Grab it in my hand, kind of close my fingers around it, and pull that needle through. You're pulling the eye of the needle up through the shaft of all those double stitches. And you can see a shorter thread does not tangle as much. It's the longer threads that you kind of have to watch, especially if you have a thread that has a twist to it. And this thread does. This thread, see how I put that needle there just to keep those 2 threads apart? And it will still want to twist, but just gently pull it through. And there I'm getting a pretty little ring here. And closing it up. And, you know, let it show you what it wants to do. Sometimes you'll have to turn it over or let it flip. It will flip to the way it wants, and it'll form its little chain there of double stitches, of rings. So kind of close it up. Now the tighter you close it, the smaller ring you're going to have, but you don't want it tight, so tight that it starts jerking on these stitches. I think that's probably as tight as I want to go. And then what I do, now here I didn't put, I did not use my needle to make a knot on this one. I used the tail to make the knot. But I can't pull that tail way over there to make another knot. So what I found is on my other rings where I was joining it, I would come from the top, from the outside of the second ring, from the top of the second ring here, and go down. Well, I found that pulled on these stitches. But if I go from my ring, from the bottom of this is my tail thread. If I come from the bottom instead of the top over here and put my needle under, this is the very first double stitch that I put on the ring, on the needle. Well, on the ring and on the needle. If I come through that and go through from the first stitch in, and it's kind of hard to show you here. I have to get it up in my hands to do it. Go through the first stitch, double stitch, and then over here through the last double stitch. So through the first and then through the last. I find that makes a much prettier ring. Keep your thread from tangling, get your tail out of the way, and then just pull it tight. And it will want to twist. But the shorter your thread gets, the less it will do stuff like this. And you can kind of put it on your finger to keep it separate. And before it closes up completely, you want to put your needle through there. Let's do that now. Separate those threads a little. Pull it a little tighter. I have pulled this knot, and I've knotted it before I got my loop completely closed. And so I'm still kind of learning how to do this nice and neat too. But it's a process. Okay, now I'm just pulling this thread back through to make my little knot. You do this a lot when you do need. And there's my tail thread getting in the way. That tail likes to be a part of it all. And just kind of pull it tight like that. And there are 2 rings joined. There we go. And practice that. The more you practice, the better you'll get. And let's just snip this off. And I'll put this in my tatting journal too. So there's 2. Now let's do 3. And the reason I want to do 3 is because I want to show you the things that can happen when you get a longer thread. And it's just like bookbinding. You have to, especially if you're using a thread that has a twist to it. This thread I find has a twist that causes, you know, the more you use it, the more it wants to twist in on itself. I'm not that savvy about threads which have good twists and which don't for tatting. I know that Barbara Foster recommends that LizBeth thread, but that's like $5 or $6 a skein for a smaller skein, and I want to get better before I start doing that. So about 1 yard and 6 inches for each ring. So there's my first one, and let me just pull this off. I'm kind of estimating. Here's my second one, and let's pull another length here. And I probably have way more than I need, but look, I've got lots of thread to practice with, so I'm not going to worry about it. And then we're just going to do 3 rings. I'm not going to shoot for 5 or 6. I've done 6, and I'm very proud of my 6 rings that I've joined together. Later on, as I progress, I will learn how to join with a different color, put a different color in there, or if I run out of thread and I want to keep going, how to join 2 together if I want. There's lots to learn in this. This isn't just there's a lot of things to learn. And as we get to making projects, okay, let's see if I can thread this one as easy as I did that other one. Get in there. I wish the eye on this needle was just a little easier, a little bigger. I almost had it. I almost had it. There it goes. All right, so you just don't need a very big tail here. But I have, and it's wrapping itself around the needle over here. Let me pull it off. Now, try to do this where you don't have a lot of things for it to wrap itself around. I have a huge length of, I'm doing 3 rings, so I have 3+ yards of string on my needle. And I want all this off to this side. Let's get this one out of the way. I want it all, and see how it's already piling in on itself here. But it's kind of like using a long thread for bookbinding. You just have to go slow and go careful. And I could see where a lot of people would say, forget that. I'll go buy my trim at a store. I can find some pretty trim, but you won't find, or you might be able to, I don't know if people sell tatting that they've done online. I'll bet you if you looked, I'll bet you could find some. I think anything that can be sold would be sold online nowadays. I want to get this thread untangled here. And this is the end of it over here. And that's the end that I'm going to work on. And usually I don't have this much trouble because I'm online, and it's got to prove that I'm a beginner here. And I'm just going to push all that over there. I'm going to be working off of it. I'm going to be working off of this. Hold on, let's get it all straightened out. And, it's only twisting itself up because you guys are watching, of course. But it's one of the joys of working with a longer thread. There we go. And I thought, well, maybe I could wind it. But you don't want to wind it in this case because you're tatting. And when you pull this thread through the shaft of the needle, all this length of thread has to go to make your ring. You have to pull all of this up through the needle. So just get it undone as much as you can. And here we're going to work off here's the tail. There's a tail on this side off of my needle side, and then there's a tail on the other end. I'm going to hold that tail in this hand alongside my needle like this, and we're going to put the first stitch on. and just kind of hold it maybe 1.5 inches down. Wrap this around your index finger, go under and pull it on, hold it on there. Sometimes I let go of it, then come in and do the second leg. That's easier than putting that little starter stitch on. I needed that little starter stitch until I learned how to do this, but I don't need that little starter stitch. And here's my tail down here. All right, we have 1 double stitch on, so we're going to make our first ring. So we're ready for 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. Very repetitive, but there are things to learn about keeping it nice and clean, keeping your threads untangled. I'm using, you can't see off over here, I've got all this length of thread going off and around over here. So as we pull through that ring, we'll see what happens. All right, we're going to first make our first picot. We have the little finger, using the finger here as the stopper, about 1/2 inch. Do the first leg, don't let it fall in. Do the second leg. Now we can let it close up and form its loop. We want to do the second group of 5. 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. Now we're going to have 3 picots on our first ring. Well, we'll have 3 picots on all of them, but 3 separate ones on our first ring. All right, so we're ready for another picot. Use your index finger as the stopper, about 1/2 inch in there, approximate. So the first leg and the second leg. Form the loop by closing it up. We're ready for the third group of 5 double stitches. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. And this is not a tutorial. This is me actually practicing and learning and showing you guys what I'm learning. I'm not trying to teach this, even though I'm explaining what I'm doing. This is not a teaching lesson. I'm hoping you're learning while you're going, but while I'm going, but all right, now I'm going to do the third picot. I put my finger there as a stopper. I like to push it down a little because I need room to work off of this. So 1, 2, make the picot. All right, so 1, starting my group here. 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, and 5, 2. Now we're going to close up our ring, and we have a big, long length of thread, plus anything it can grab onto on the table. I mean, and this tends to twist a lot for me. And it gets better as I get a shorter thread. But if you go careful, just as you do when you're binding a journal and using a long thread, and I do that, I'm going to make a shorter tail here because I don't like to pull too long threads through this shaft. I like to pull a shorter thread through it. So close it up. Just kind of hold on to your tail, hold on to the double stitches and push them down the length of the needle. Try to keep your little double stitches pointed the same directions with all the little caps pointing the same way. Push it down and then gently pull your needle through, and you're going to need to watch what your thread catches onto because it is going to want to twist up on you. So just try to keep it as neat as you can. Don't forget what thread you're pulling, and just gently pull it through. And see, it wants to twist up on itself. Just try to keep it untwisted. And if you do get a twist, don't pull on it. Shake it out. shake it out, and it will fall. As you shake it, it will untwist. And I find that when I'm trying to untwist a length of embroidery thread or any thread, I'm trying crochet thread, anything like that, if it twists on itself, like, see, I've got this needle, I'll put that up there. So you're just going to gently pull this thread through. I like to have it away from this thread. Just gently pull it through. And it's going to form its ring. See, it's forming its ring. But you got to keep these twists. Shake them out. Just gently shake them out. Don't try to pull on it. I have a tendency to want to try to pull. Just shake them out. And then pull. And if you pull gently and know where you are going, and keep them untwisted as much as you can, you won't have a problem. But when you say, oh, I want to do this faster, then it starts twisting in on itself. So just do it slow and gentle, and it will twist. I think this thread has a twist to it. And, you know, I just picked this off the shelf at Walmart, so I'm just using what I have here. And let's pull this over here now. Keep this needle thread separate if I can. Well, what did I do? No, I don't want it over there because it's gonna, my needle thread has to come over there, I think. I might be getting myself in a mess here. Let's get that little piece of fabric. It found it. Let's keep it untwisted. Keep my needle thread. I don't know what I did here. Keep that under there. There. Get the tail out of the tail wants to get in there too. I'm pulling on the needle thread. Here it goes. Put it there maybe. All right. Now I can pull and keep it untwisted. You kind of have to follow the directions of the thread to keep them separate as much as you can and untwisted as much as you can. Now, when it gets shorter and wants to twist, I still can't do it while it gets longer. Well, it's long, but when it gets shorter like this and wants to twist up on itself and it's twisting there, I do take this needle or anything really and just kind of put it there, and that will kind of hold it while I'm pulling. It's a third hand. See, it kind of keeps it from, but you have to constantly let it move and it will eventually pull out, but that's okay. Keep this thread because you're pulling on the thread. Pull it through, but it keeps it from twisting in on itself. Now, I'm not sure if that's somebody who's more advanced might have a better way of doing this, but this is what I've learned for right now. Now I can take that needle away and close up this ring. And I'm closing it up. I'm just letting it find its path, and it will say, oh, I want to be a part of this other ring. And it just, I guess I've only done one ring. The second one wants to twist up on the third one. We'll see that as I go. So I guess what I'm saying is a longer thread is a little bit harder to work with. But I think when we get working off of the ball, that a lot of that might be taken care of. But we'll see when we get there. All right, I'm pulling this tight. I don't want to pull it too tight and misshapen. And here's my tail thread, and I'm going to make my little knot at the end. And eventually you get to a pretty little ring. Eventually. And if you're patient with it, you'll be happy. Now, I need to knot this. Come on, get over here. There we go. And pull it tight. And there's my first ring of 3. We're going to do 2 more. But let's kind of shake this out. Oh, it's pretty. It's pretty. Now look at my thread here. I'm just gonna, I want to keep it on the needle, but I'm gonna kind of shake it out. Shake it, don't, shake it, shake it, shake it. Don't pull on it, because if you pull on it, those threads will pull together and make a knot. And I want this thread over to my left-hand side. So just kind of shake it out. And as you do these rings, your thread will get shorter. It's if we're using a long thread, the first ring will be the most difficult, if you ask me. All right, so now let's get this all straightened out on my needle thread here. I still have some to kind of shake out. Just kind of shake it. And as you shake it, it looks like it's going to knot up, but it works itself out. Okay, so now here's my needle thread. Here's my loop, sort of. It's all up in here as I work. And here's my first ring. Now I'm going to let my first ring, as I said before, just let it kind of hang down like that. Take your tatting thread, you're tatting off of this thread, not off of the needle, you're tatting off of this side where your ring is. Come down, give yourself some room here on your needle. Put your thread on your needle and kind of hold it there. Now I like to make it shorter, because I know that after I make my first stitch, I get a longer thread than what I'm expecting. So I make it a little shorter. And get your tail out of the way. Get your tail out of the way. And you're working off of this thread. Don't let this fall out of your needle here. All right. So now you want to put your thread that you're going to tat over your index finger, come under and make a loop and pull it onto your needle like that. Hold on to it. Don't let go of it. Don't let go of it. Hold on to it. And it wants to pull out. So I hurry up and do the second leg. After you get that second leg on, it holds better. So now I've got a little short thread, about a 1/2 inch between my 2 rings right there. And now I can do the first set of 5. So tatting is not the hard part. It's making the rings and pulling this long thread through, in my opinion. So we've already got 1 double stitch. We're doing 2, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, sorry, 4, 2, 5, 2. I've got 5 double stitches on my needle. Now I want to join. I've kind of joined on this thread, but we're going to do another join through this picot, which is the 3rd picot off of the first ring. And scoot your set of double 5 stitches down closer to the needle and put that point through the picot, point of your needle through, and I kind of pull it down a little, and then take your thread and I wrap it around my needle. It's easier for me to pull it through the loop there if I wrap it around my needle. It's kind of like knitting or crochet, and you just pull that thread right through it and it makes a little loop on your needle. And there we go, we've joined it. Now we need to do, and this counts as the 3rd picot off of the first ring and the 1st picot off of the 2nd ring. It's a joint picot. So we've got to do 5 sets of double stitches. So there's 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2. See, this is easy. 4, 2, 5, 2. Now we're going to do the second picot, which would be the top one of your ring. So push it down a little, get your index finger as a stopper in here, and about a 1/2 inch. Put your first leg there, don't let it slide down, and do your second leg. And then you can close it up and it forms the loop. So you now need to do a set of 5 double stitches. So 1, 2, I don't count like this when I'm sitting doing it by myself. 2, 2, 3. I'm doing it because I'm kind of demonstrating. So there's 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. We're ready to do the last picot. We got 1, 2. The first picot is a join. The second picot is right there. It's the middle one. So we're ready to do the third one. So again, the little 1/2 inch, your finger is a stopper. Make the first leg, don't let it fall down, and make the second leg. Close it up. So now we need to do the last set of 5 double stitches. I think you can do like 3 in there, but these are I'm following the exercise in the book. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. Now we're ready to close, and here we have this thread. Again, a long length of thread, and it will twist. It will twist on itself. Just do your best to keep it separated. Do your best. And we want to hold this in our hand, put the needle like this, kind of close your fingers around it. I find that that does work good for me. You can't see, you don't see much, but it seems to hold these stitches steady. The worst problem I have is pulling this long thread through. So just gently pull it through and concentrate of not letting that thread twist on itself. Thread wants to grab everything it can. So we're pulling on this thread here, not this thread there. So just pull it through, keep it separate, gently pull it. And I find the slower I go, the easier it is. I get impatient. Don't get impatient. See how that twisted there? Just kind of pull it. And again, if I take my needle and kind of hold on to it with my needle, it keeps these things straight. But my needle tends to want to fall out. And I'm getting a knot in there. There. And it's already formed a twist there. But just gently pull it. And eventually it'll go through. It'll find its way. Pull it. Now I've got another length to go here. I got all this to pull through yet. So gently pull. If you can keep these 2 threads apart, I think you'll have an easier time of it. Keep this thread from twisting in on this thread, but that's not always the case because it wants to twist on itself over here too. But just it just helps. Pull it through. And it's getting smaller. Pull it through. Oops, I let go of it. Where's my needle? My needle might help here. See, it wants to twist. It's got a twist. Let's do the twist. And I think that's a function of how the thread is made. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but this has a high twist to it. But it's coming along just fine. Let that ring do its thing. Don't try to make it do something it doesn't want to do. And it will kind of flip to the back and flip to the front, and you'll go, where are you going? But eventually, as you pull on it, it will form its ring. And that's what it's doing here. And it's going to be another little pretty ring. Keep the tail out of it. And pull it tight. And now we've got 2. Now, I want to do the same thing as I did on the other 2 and come, let's pull this a little tighter. I want to come, not too tight. I might be a little tight in there. I want to come from the, get my tail out of the way. I want to come from the first stitch on the ring, come kind of do a little back stitch from the first stitch on the ring to the last, through to the last stitch. And I find that makes the prettiest, the cleanest way to close these rings up and secure them. So through the first ring on the stitch and through the last, the first stitch on the ring and through the last stitch on the ring. And you don't have to go through back both threads. One thread will do, but sometimes it will go through both of them. Just do the best you can. And I've got all this thread that I want to go through that area. Don't let your needle get unthreaded. And it's another case of keeping this. And the longer the thread, the harder it is to work with. But as you get more rings joined together, your thread will get shorter. Your thread will get shorter and it'll be easier. And I'm talking through this a lot when I'm sitting here doing it myself. It's, you know, I kind of just do it and it doesn't take me quite as long. Another thing to do is to put your hand through that loop, and that kind of separates the threads too, but it depends. An expert will probably have a better way of doing this, but this seems to work for me right now. And I want to keep those threads separate as much as I can. I put the needle through the first ring, the first double stitch of the loop, and the last double stitch of the loop of the ring. I said loop, I meant ring. Through the first double stitch of the ring and up through the last stitch of the ring. And I'm just making a little stitch to secure the ring so it won't unravel. And see, as it gets down here toward the end, it really has a twist to it. It really has a twist, and it pulls my little tail. Don't pull on my tail. Let's put that needle in there again. Just kind of keep those threads separate the best I can and let the needle kind of flow up with it. Get that tail out of the way. And pull it through. Now we don't want to close that up completely. We want it a little loop yet. And it, boy, it really wants to twist on there, doesn't it? Wow. And pull it, pull it, pull it. And I do have my needle in the loop. Whoops, I pulled it out. Well, let's put it back in. I can still put it in there. Get that twist out of it. Start here at the bottom. There we go. There. Close this up, this loop up a little more. I got my needle through the loop. I want to close up the loop over the needle. Don't drop the needle, Meri. Don't drop the needle. Now, I still want to pull this thread through because I'm making the knot. So I'm pulling it back through the loop to make the knot. And yeah, you know, it looks, you know, it looks harder than it is. It's, as you work with it, And, you know, as you get better, and, you know, I'm a beginner. You're seeing me learn as a beginner. And somebody who's an expert with this probably wouldn't have all these issues that I have with the twisted thread, and they may be working off of that. Am I twisting, or I'm untwisting it? And let's just kind of pull on this by keeping my fingers. Well, that's not going to work. Let's just pull it. Gently pull it. Keep it untwisted. Gently pull it. And I'm going to form a knot down here. You can't see it. It's underneath of my thumb. But there it is. There's my second. I've joined those two rings together. Oh, but we're going to do a third one. Same way. But my thread should be shorter. Let's see my little, you can pull out your little Picasso, make them look pretty, delicate. I love my Picasso. All right, get that tail. Let's see, I think a tail is here, so this goes this way. This was the first ring, and that's the second one. So we're going to do a third one over here the same way. Get my thread off over onto the left side of my table, and it's twisted. It's twisty. It's twisty. But the more loops and the more rings that you get on here, the more thread that you use. So the shorter your thread is, so it's easier to use. So you kind of, you're working off of these two rings. I'm going to face them this way, face them out, and smooth out your thread. Put your needle on your thread, and like I said, I make it shorter than a 1/2 inch because by the time I pull that first stitch, it's added more length to my connecting thread. So I make it shorter. Now, as I learn more, I may not do that. So just take that with a grain of salt if you're working along with me, or let's see. Pull that. I got a pretty long tail over here, but I can always shorten that. I don't like how this is twisted on here. So let's do it again. Get it down in there. Not quite a 1/2 inch, a little shorter than a 1/2 inch. And I'm still working with this, so I'm still learning it. But if you hold on to it there between your needle and your finger, hold on to that. And then you take your thread, not your tail thread, but your needle, your thread that you're going to tat with, your loop thread. And I got to get my tat, I got to get here behind my tatting. Now I pulled it off. Let's put that back in there. Let's do that again. Hold it a little short because it'll lengthen itself out by the time I'm done. I'm holding that thread between my needle and my finger, and I'm wrapping around. I'm going to do the first leg. You go over your index finger and come around and go under and make that loop and put it on your needle. Don't drop it. Come back around and do your second leg, and that will secure that first stitch. And see, as I let go, my thread lengthens out. And I'm okay with that because I made it shorter. And it's about the same length. Well, where's the other one? The other one's right here. It's a little longer than the other one. I don't know if I can pull it any tighter. This one's a little shorter. This one's a little longer. And as I was saying, as you learn and as you get more expert at this, you'll learn to make these even. I think with a shorter thread here, your ring will want to encircle, make a form a circle. And if you want it, I think I pulled it a little shorter now by pulling on that down. if you make them the same size, they will flatten out. Of course, it depends on the size of your rings too. So we're gonna go with what I have here. So I've already got my first double stitch on. This is the easy part. The easy part is doing the stitches. So I've got one. We're going with the second stitch. So here's 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. All right. So now what we want to do is join it. Here's my tail thread. This is the first string here, right? Right. Wait, what do I have here? Where's the tail thread? We want to join it to this. My tail thread is. My tail thread tells me where the first string is, and it's twisted up in there. Well, I'm going to leave it. I'll have to untwist it once I get this ring made. It's, well, maybe I can take and pull it out here. Where is it? It's here. Where did it go? No, that's the first string. So I want to join this, turn it over. You'll have to figure this out as you go. I want to join this to the third picot of the second ring. And I know which is my first ring by where the tail thread is. The tail thread is coming out. Wait. Yeah, the tail thread's coming out of this bottom. It's right in here. So this is the first loop, and that's, I mean, the first ring, and this is the second ring. So I want to put my, I don't want to put my, you have to be careful. I almost put it through the first picot of the first ring. I didn't want to do that. That would really be pretty. I don't know. Maybe they will do that someday. Maybe I will want to do that someday. But I want to go through, this is the second ring, and this is the first picot, the second one, and the third one. I want to go through the third picot of the second ring. And so I just put my needle through it and put my thread over the needle, and we're going to pull that thread up through that picot. And I find it kind of helps to keep my finger under that thread because it keeps it from falling back. And then you just pull it through just like that, and it's on the ring. And now it's the easy part again. We're going to do the second set of 5 double stitches. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. No more joins on this. We've already got 2 joined. We've got these 2 rings joined, and this is the third ring, and it's joined to the second one at that picot. Let's get my scissors out of the way. All right, so but we're going to do a picot, and it'll be the top one on this ring. Put your finger there as a spacer, about a 1/2 inch space. Wrap your thread around your index finger, come under the loop with your needle and wrap it on the needle. Oh, but see what happened? I let that get too close. Can I pull it out? Let's pull that off. Well, maybe I can. There. About a 1/2 inch. Don't let it fall down yet. All right, now we want to come around and do our second leg. And now we want to close up the loop. I almost goofed. Pull that out a little. All right, we're ready for our third set of double stitches. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. I find this is the easiest part of it all. 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. And we want another picot, which will be the last one. So put your finger there. Don't let that thread, I tend to let my thread fall down. And then I have to work it out again. So do your first side and then do your second leg. Just like that. And then you can close it up. And see my thread is getting shorter, so it's much easier to handle. So I'm on my third ring. All right, we want to do our last set of 5 double stitches. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2. And there we go. Now we're ready to close up our ring. And I'm going to shorten that. My thread is, it still can twist, but it's a shorter thread. I won't get as many twists. And I want to shorten up my tail here. I don't like that long length of thread going through my double stitches. Make it about 3 inches. All right, so close your fingers up around the bottom tail and the double stitches and just kind of pull them down and pull your needle through. You're pulling your needle thread, you're pulling the eye of the needle through the shaft of those double stitches there. And it's going much easier now on this third ring, but it still can twist. It still can twist. Let's pull this thread down this way. And maybe put my hand between these to keep them separate on the table here. When I'm working, sitting in my recliner, I just kind of find something to separate them. That just kind of pull it through gently. Whoops. And as it gets shorter, it wants to really twist. And let's put my needle there. Put my needle there. And just gently pull it. Let your needle go up with it if it wants to. And gently pull it through. And it's going to come off the needle at some point because it needs to close up that ring. The thread is behind me here. Just gently pull it closed and it will want to twist and turn, and just let it do what it wants to do, because that's how it's forming its ring. Pull it tighter. And let's see where that thread went off to. It's here. It's right here. We're pulling it through. We're closing it up. We're closing it up. That went pretty good, didn't it? So you can straighten out your little picots if you want. There's the third one, the second one, and the first one is a join. Now the only thing I have left to do is to secure it at the end, and we do that by going through the first double stitch of the ring and the last double stitch of the ring. I find that works best for me. So I'm just going to tie a knot here. I'm going to go through the first double stitch, put my needle through it, and the last double stitch. And sometimes I have to work with it to see where I'm going. And you can either go through one of the legs of the stitch or through both of them. I don't think that matters too much. An expert might tell you differently, or they'll have a different way to do this. But for right now, this is what is working for me. Did I get through the last one here? I'm losing it here. I'm losing it. Let's go through here and through the last one over here. It wants to find it here. Right there. I think I'm through it. I'm through more than one, I think. There. Now, we're just going to make a loop and close it up, and then we're going to put our needle through that loop to make a knot. Okay. Keep your threads separate as much as you can. As it gets shorter, it gets much easier until you get down to the bottom of it. Let's pull this through here. close it up. You could put your hand in there too, put your fingers in there. Keep those threads separate. Keep a finger in there. And then you want to put your needle in that loop because you're gonna pull that thread through. Maybe I can do it now. I tend to get a lot of thread in there. Where's my needle thread here? I might have to unthread my needle because I've got it all twisted up in here. The twist of the thread. Let's unthread the needle. That won't be hard to do. And find where it's at here. There we go. Eventually it straightens itself out. This is my loop here, and this is my thread that I'm pulling through. I want a clean knot. I want a clean knot. This is my loop. There we go. And see, my finger's kind of holding the loop open, and this is the thread that I'm pulling through. So just kind of, it wants to twist in on itself. You kind of want to make a clean knot there. Pull it tight, pull it tight. There we go. Whew. And there I have joined 3 wings. And I talked through it all. That's what made it, because I'm explaining what I'm doing. Now, what do I have going on here? What do I have going on here? Looks like I got it twisted in here. My tail. What did I do? My tail thread there. There we go. And I made those awful short for these big rings. I might have needed to make these length down here a little bit longer. So you see they're starting to close up on each other. It depends on what you want to make with this. You know, I could see this making a pretty little ring of flowers, petals of flowers. But that all comes with, right now I'm just concentrating on joining and securing and, you know, just getting 3 or 4 of them together. And as I do the projects, then I'll concentrate on how long of a length do I want in here. They say a 1/2 inch. I've got about a 1/2 inch. This one's a little shorter. And my loops are pretty big. My rings are pretty large. But I'm very happy with that. I've got thread left here more than I need. I could make a couple more rings off of this too. We'll get that out of the way. Now, I've talked through joining 2 rings and joining 3 rings. So what I want to do is get out my book. And last week, I talked about just making picots and rings. And I made these 2. I made a white one and a gold one. I'm not going to do a gold one today. And I was stitching these onto a piece of paper and putting them down. But, however, I was gifted by Laura Vasquez this art glitter glue. And I think that it'll work really nice putting these rings in. I've got the tails. The tails on this one are a little stubborn tails. Maybe I'll put it on top. It's a shorter tails there. And so, and my book is my journal is just black paper bound in a book that I covered with fabric. And I don't want to lose this needle. and I'm going to put last week's in here. So let me put a little dab of glue on here. And they say this is fast drying and it holds real secure. And we'll see. We'll put this right on that dab of glue. Put it there. I'm going to hold it and put a dab of glue. Can you guys see? Yeah. I'll put a dab of glue underneath here if I can see. Right there. And a dab of glue over here. And a dab of glue hopefully over there. And we're just going to lay that on top. I like that. And I don't know if I can secure these with a dab of glue so they aren't springing around on me. Let's hold that down a little. And let's put a little dab of glue. And I'm hoping that this glue will dry transparent. Let's hold that there for a minute. And then this one I'm going to put down here. And then I'll document in here. These are examples of me making Picassos and closing up the ring. That worked, sort of. I hope that that dries transparent. So we're going to do the white one. I think I started down here. Let's just put a dab of glue on there to start with. And put my ring on top of it. Hold on to it. Put a dab of glue under it here. Over here. And oops, over there. And maybe I can pull that up enough to cover it. And it does seem to hold it nice and secure. We will see as I flip pages and start, you know, turning pages in this book. Let's put a little dab there and put my thread on top of it there. Kind of hold it down a little. There. Now I also have today's. I should date this too. I'll have to check and see what date. I'll date this one. What we did today is we joined rings. We did the join and we worked with long threads. So I'm going to put these in over here. And I'm so thankful for this. What a nice, how thoughtful, what a nice gift this was. Maybe over in here. What a nice gift. Thank you so much, Laura. I don't have her address either. I'll verbally thank her, but I guess I'm going to have to catch her in one of the live streams. She does come into my live streams. Catch her in one of my live streams and say, would you please send me your address so I can send you an ATC or something to thank you? I might have her address. She sent me those seed cards. I don't know if she put her address on there or not, but I can get it from her. I'll just say, send me your address. All right, we're just going to kind of hold that there. I think that will work. And then this one I'm going to put up here and I'll journal down here. So let's put this one in. I'll have to have 3 dots. We'll start with the top one right in there. And put it down on it. That'll kind of hold it there. And as I'm holding it there, I'm going to do this one right about in here. And hold that one down. Right in there. And this is my, let's get my needle out here. This is really the top Picasso right there. And put that glue right under it. A little dab over here maybe. Right in there. Hold it down. I find this, it sticks fast. It's a quick dry. And that's what you want for something like this. Yeah, that'll do the work. So these are what I did last week, and that's what I did this week. Now I have all of these. These are practice ones that I did. There's 3 and 2, and here's another. These are 2s, 2s. And when I say 2, I mean 2. This is my 6th one, my 6. I should have another 3. The 3s I'm going to put in Happy Mail because they're extra 3s. My 6 off of here. The 2s I'm just going to put in my bin over here. And we'll put them on art projects, or we'll find a use for them eventually. They're just practice ones. And the 6, I'm going to put on, should I put them down here? I could put them in here. I'm going to journal there. I could cut this shorter and put them down here. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And you can see I have them different. I have these threads different in here, different lengths. These are longer. These are a little shorter in here. Get that out of the way. And so it tends to want to curl in on itself. But we'll just start. I'm going to start right in here and put a dot of blue down there. And maybe if I can reach under it, a dot of blue here. Did I put blue up on the top there? I don't think I did. I may have, I can't remember. And we want to put blue up at the top here. And I'm just gently squeezing on that. I can't really see how much I'm getting out there. Must be getting something out. Well, I need to go under this, I think. Oops, got little shaky hands here. Trying to hold it steady. Now let's go under this one. There. Now, let me trim the tails. I've used these scissors for so many different things. Let me push my book up. As I was working, I think I pulled it down a little. And let's trim this tail. And that in there. There we go. Now I do have in here some more. I made a little tree. These were just separate rings. Let's start at the bottom here. I'm going to make a little tree in anticipation of what type of a project I could do in the future. We could do a little Christmas tree. We could do little flowers. It's all sorts of things you could do. But this is just extra rings, a little play in my book here. And I'll put one there and a dab of glue. Did I get glue in there? I think I did. We'll let those fall. And then I'm going to let the rings fall down. I mean the strings fall down. Well, I might clip those off. Let's clip them a little shorter. really needed to come up a little higher. I don't want to pull on it now. Maybe if I pull this one down, and I can cover this up. Pull it down a little further. There. And we'll put some glue here and here. And that tail one wants to go there and over there. And we'll put some glue here and here. And a dab of glue there. And I should have another ring here. Let's clip the tail. And on these rings, I can clip the tails because I secured them down at the bottom. And let's put a little dab up here. And maybe on the sides a little. Can't see where I'm going with it. There. So I got a little triangle there. I could see doing a triangle and doing stars. Do I want to clip those? I think I do. Let's clip these. There. So that's just a little triangle. Maybe I'll do some other up in there, but I could see making little smaller rings. My thread's pretty thick here, but I could see making smaller rings and joining them into a star. You know, maybe like only 3 would be sufficient for, you know, a side of a star. You could make a Christmas decoration. Okay, let me put the pin back in this glue. I'm getting toward the end here. I don't want to lose my pin. There we go. Now, throw away all these. I don't need these. I'm going to keep the longer. These 2 I'm going to gift in Happy Mail. I'm pretty proud of them. They could go on an ATC or on a tag or on an image on a journal page. I'm just going to leave them out here on my desk. Okay, so we want to document. Hopefully this will write. Let me see if I can get it to write, maybe on this scrap of paper. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to date this, but I forget what date it was that I did these. But this, I'm going to do practice. Joining. 6 rings. And I did this sometime last week. So today is the 13th. I'm going to subtract 5 days. I'm going to make it January 8th. January 8th, 2023. Now, I think I did this right after the New Year sometime. I can't date it. I'll have to go back and look. This is make 1 ring and Picasso. Alrighty, and then over here, whoops, I guess I could put some practice ones in there. Of course I left this page in there. Well, maybe I'll put some projects in there later. I didn't date. Oh, yeah, I did. That was December 27th. So this, I made this one January 8th. So let's just put January blank, comma, 2023. And I'll have to look and see what date that is. Today, I join 2 rings and join 3 rings. And I've done this several times, but this is just the examples in here. And today is January 13th, 2023. So there we go. There we go. How fun this was. Now, I know I've been on here for a good long time because I talked through all of this, and I had to document my journal. I might come back in here and glue some of these in here just as I'll just make practice stitches, practice rings, and that will document that I've been practicing. This was my first how to do double stitches here, examples of tatting a row of double stitches without the picots, and making 1 ring and the picot, and joining 2 rings and joining 3 rings and joining 6 rings. How fun this has been for me. I can't wait till I can work with more delicate thread and when I get to making projects. Oh, and then, yeah, over here. This could have been done inside over there, but I'm just going to say, well, let's date it January 13th, 2023. And this is a way that you could use rings. Example of using rings in art journals or on tags. I'm going to put in art journal to form a Christmas tree, to form a Christmas tree. That's what it looks like to me. But this is just an example of a way that you can use all these little rings that you're using. And, you know, I might get over here, I might put a fussy cut up in here. Do I have one close by? Let me see what I have out here. I don't have one close. Oh, I have this lady. I have her. Let's cut her out. And this is just examples, a way that you can use this in your art journaling. And I want to eventually get good enough to make pretty trim and make doilies and ornaments. You can do all sorts of things with this. Trimming on clothes, on a cuff, on your collar. You can make collars. Although we don't really wear collars anymore, but tatted collars. Let's put this in here. I think I'll put it over here with my play over here. I'm just using this because it's handy. I really don't want to use all this art glitter glue to glue stuff like this in. Thank you, Laura, for the art glitter glue. Let's put her in here. Right in here. And let's grab a couple of... I'm not ready to quit, obviously. Let's get some... Should I do 2? Or should I make it... Look, she's holding a little flower there. Let's make a little flower coming off over this way. We could do this. We could twist this together. Can I twist it? Can I twist it? If you want to twist it, it doesn't want to twist if you want to twist it. If you didn't want to twist it, yeah. If you didn't want to twist it, let's try to tie it here. But not tie it tight. Come on. Just tie it like that. And make a little knot. But not a tight knot up to the neck. Get it through there. Get in there. Now. There. There we go. Let's make it loop like a little flower. Should a third one go on there? Would a third one look decent? Let's clip the wings. And yeah, that's what we'll do. So you could put little vignettes on here. Let's put a dot of glue here. Did I get a dot? A dot there maybe, and a dot over here. Hopefully that works. And whoops. Hold on to that for me and put a dot of glue in here. And let that hang down. Now, where's the one I clipped? Where's the one I clipped? Where did he go off to? Right in there. There. Oh, that's pretty. And I could see a written quote or something there. Let's put all of these back in here. I'll eventually use these. These are practicing. I'm learning how to tat. And you could put one down on here or up there. This has wording on it, though. I love that this flower is here, and this kind of accentuates the flower that's on this. So let's just write example of using with images. And I'll just date it January 13th, 2023. And I might make more in here. But let's go back to my learning ones. I'm going to make this my thumbnail. And where's my little needle? Uh-oh, where did it go off to? Oh, geez. I had it over here. Not my tatting needle, my little black needle. Well, it can't have gone far. I'll find it. thank you so much for watching me do this, for tatting along with me. I had a lot of fun doing this. I can't wait to get more advanced. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.